Pedagogy and education through our history. History has led us to think about pedagogy and education as concepts not static but changing. It's proved by the fact that beliefs and principles have gone from being collectivities established as unique and unquestionable rules to aspects that have become in something eminently individual. Pedagogy and education have been called and said to satisfy these individualities. These individualities have diversified and bent according to the mass aberration that have grown in opinions, critics, and ways to see the world. Since then, these concepts have been held in thought as scientific reflections and have kept societies on permanent growing and evolving. This is in which they have become pedagogy as science. If we are going to speak about this topic, we have to speak about things that happened many years ago. One of them was the French Revolution from 1789 until 1799, and some other things in this time, like the works of Johann Friedrich Herbert, 1776-1841, the builder of the modern pedagogy. To begin with, let's talk a little bit about the French Revolution. According with Emily Durkheim and her 25 theses about the genesis of pedagogy, before this revolution, pedagogy had made intermittent appearances because rules, principles, and beliefs, among others, had been aspects based in the interest of nation and religion, which in some way had been monopolies until then. Thus, it was not necessary to think about new ways to educate people because these ways had not changed so much. It used to be the same things and ways to one and all. After that, it has begun to change. Everyone has started to develop their own way of thinking, believing, and analyzing facts from a more critical point of view. Therefore, it has begun to be necessary to reflect more permanently on how to educate people who now were considered individuals, and besides, started to be much more different one from each other. So, pedagogy has set as a permanent need. It has begun to be necessary every time when contents and educational practices are outdated and merit a change. It has been shown in situations of crisis or imbalance between the needs of social and educational systems. Through history, this relationship between these two systems has made us understand the different ways of conceiving pedagogy and education according to the evolution of each social system. Let's continue with the works of Johann Friedrich Herbert, born in 1776, a German psychologist, educator, and brilliant philosopher who at an early age, and next to the pedagogue Johann Heinrich Pestalozzi, 1746-1827, was encouraged to learn more about pedagogical issues. In that time, the 19th century, Romanticism and idealism prevailed. In front of Romanticism, Johann Friedrich Herbert defended and showed great interest in the intellectual and individual opinions, opposed that the thought forms of idealism and the idea of the interest of the nation as unique basis to educate people, because to him it is more important to the individual interests. This particular interest in education and his ideas against those of his time led him to develop theories that have been systematically based on observation. Some of his works during this time include ABCs of Observation 1804, The Moral or Ethic Revelation of the World, The Chief Aim of Education 1804, General Pedagogics, His Chief Educational Work 1806, Chief Points of Logic 1806, Chief Points of Metaphysics 1806, and General Practical Philosophy 1808. These are works that have contributed to the pedagogy in an important way. Herbert's influence on educational theory is very important, even at the present time. He not only developed a philosophical, psychological rationale for teaching, but a teaching method as well. In conclusion, the works of Johann Friedrich Herbert have been critical to the development and advancement of pedagogy and education. The central thesis of his thought was the aspiration to form the child's spirit through clear and specific experiences, in a way systematically and carefully observed. For this reason, he and his works have become one of the greatest contributions to education and pedagogy, which begins to be conceived as a science through his works characterized by the methods and new forms of closely combining theory and practice. In this way, he supported to promote a great movement that leads from idealism to scientific realism. Finally, one last reflection in front of what pedagogy is. Being a science that makes questions permanently about the best way to train individuals in the free development of his personality and specific knowledge, that is, an education that may lead to a comprehensive personal development and a holistic training with a sense of humanity, according to Durkheim, that's born with capitalism, product of a revolution that apparently frees man from generic postulates that in its historical moment restricted freedom of individual development. Once this form of permanent scientific reflection is born, set in the midst of the society, to never ever disappear. Because despite of the possibility of being a daughter of a revolution, pedagogy should be destined to maintain the order of man in harmony with his spirit, living in peace with his neighbor, respecting him despite differences, without forgetting the tenderness toward those who need it, giving them from ethic the freedom to see the world his way, because it may be a better way than his own. This will give them autonomy to take responsibility for what they will be, give, and do or not a significant contribution to the solution of conflicts in the society to which they belong. All this once they are considered adult people and citizens to whom it is expected It has been given a holistic training with a sense of humanity, thanks to an educational system which in turn is responsible for the world.